In the serene neighborhood of Willowbrook, I, Detective Landon Chase, found myself enmeshed in a complex web of emotions and hidden desires. The request that had brought me to this point was a delicate one, an investigation into a potential infidelity. Mark Parker, a husband tormented by suspicion and doubt, had approached me with a heavy heart, seeking answers that would either confirm or dispel his fears. Under the weight of Mark's concerns, I undertook the assignment. His anguish was palpable, his eyes betraying a mix of sorrow and desperation as he recounted his suspicions of his wife, Emma. What was once a thriving marriage now teetered on the precipice of ruin, torn apart by secrets that festered like a wound. With Mark's permission and financial support, I embarked on a meticulous investigation that involved placing discreet hidden cameras within the Parker residence. The decision to proceed weighed heavily on my conscience, a fine line between personal ethics and professional duty. It was a moral gray area I had seldom traversed, a path that blurred the boundaries between privacy and truth. The days turned into nights as I kept watch over the secret footage captured by the hidden cameras. Every stolen moment, every whispered conversation, painted a vivid picture of a life that strayed far from the idyllic facade Emma presented to the world. As I watched Emma, a striking and alluring woman, move through her daily routine, I couldn't help but be drawn into the complexity of her emotions. In the dim glow of my monitor, I observed Emma's interactions with Alex, the enigmatic figure who had become the center of her world. Their exchanges were laced with an electric tension, an undeniable connection that transcended mere friendship. It was a connection that illuminated the cracks in her marriage and fueled the suspicions that had brought me to this point. Days turned into weeks as I meticulously gathered evidence, wrestling with the ethical dilemmas that accompanied my investigation. I knew that the truth I uncovered could devastate a family, forever altering the lives of those involved. As I delved deeper, I found myself torn between the loyalty I owed to my client and the empathy I felt for Emma, a woman whose heart was ensnared in the throes of conflicting desires. The pivotal moment arrived when Mark sat down with me to review the footage, the culmination of weeks of observation and speculation. As the hidden truths were laid bare before us, the room grew heavy with tension. The evidence was irrefutable, confirming Mark's worst fears and revealing the extent of Emma's betrayal. Mark's heartache was palpable, his pain echoing through the room as he grappled with the reality before him. In that moment, I understood the weight of my responsibility, the role I played in revealing the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I remained a silent witness to the unraveling of a marriage, a spectator to emotions that transcended the boundaries of right and wrong. But the story took an unexpected turn when Emma herself sought me out. One evening, after the sun had set and the city's lights painted a tapestry of shadows, she arrived at my doorstep, her eyes a mixture of desperation and determination. "Detective Chase, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. I ushered her inside, my curiosity piqued. "Mrs. Parker, what brings you here?" She hesitated for a moment before blurting out,
"I know what you've discovered, and I need you to understand that it's not as simple as it seems."
I studied her carefully, her demeanor a stark contrast to the composed woman I had observed in the footage. "I'm here to listen, Mrs. Parker. Please, have a seat." As she settled into a chair, she took a deep breath, her words tumbling out in a rush.
"I never intended for any of this to happen. It started innocently enough, a connection, an escape. But now it's spiraled out of control. I'm trapped, Detective Chase."
I regarded her with a mixture of empathy and curiosity. "Trapped in what way, Mrs. Parker?" She met my gaze, her eyes pleading for understanding.
"This investigation, it's tearing my life apart. If the truth comes out, my family will be shattered. My husband, my children, they'll be devastated. I'll lose everything."
I leaned back in my chair, absorbing her words. It was a perspective I hadn't fully considered, the weight of consequences that extended far beyond Emma and her choices. "Mrs. Parker, my role as a detective is to uncover the truth. It's not a decision I take lightly." She leaned forward, her desperation palpable.
"Is there no other way? Is there nothing we can do to keep this from destroying everything?"
I beheld her for a moment, the complexities of the situation swirling in my mind. "Mrs. Parker, my duty is to the truth, but I also understand that human emotions are not black and white. Choices are made in shades of gray, and consequences ripple far beyond the surface." As our conversation continued, Emma's desperation grew more pronounced. her pleas a poignant reminder of the weight of truth and its potential to unravel lives. And then, in a moment that caught me off guard, she shifted her tone, her gaze meeting mine with a mixture of vulnerability and intent.
Detective Chase, is there nothing I can do to change the course of this investigation?
Her words hung between us, the room heavy with a tension that was impossible to ignore. In that moment, I realized the extent of the turmoil that had gripped Emma's heart, a turmoil that had driven her to desperate measures, even the suggestion of seduction. My resolve remained steadfast, my duty clear despite the allure of temptation. Mrs. Parker, I appreciate your honesty, but my commitment to the truth remains unwavering. She withdrew slightly, her expression a mixture of defeat and resignation.
Landon, I can make it worth your while. I can offer you something that could change your perspective, that could make you reconsider the path you're on.
Her words hung in the air, pregnant with unspoken implications. I regarded her, my expression remaining impassive despite the turmoil within. Mrs. Parker, I understand the stakes, but my role is to uphold justice and uncover the truth. She leaned in closer, her proximity causing my heart to quicken.
I had to try, Detective Chase. I had to do everything in my power to protect my family.
As Emma left that evening, the weight of her words lingered. The complexity of human emotions and the choices they compelled us to make were laid bare before me. The story of Emma Parker's infidelity was no longer just a tale of secrets. It was a testament to the power of desperation and the lengths to which we're willing to go to protect those we love, even if it means sacrificing our own integrity. In the end, the investigation reached its conclusion, and the truth emerged, as it inevitably does. The Parkers' lives were forever changed, and I, Detective Landon Chase, was left to grapple with the intricacies of morality, truth, and the fragile threads that bind us all.